welcome to Frag Out Radio, the video podcast that showcases people doing good things in the veteran community. Today's guest is Eric Mitchell. Welcome, Eric. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, bud?
Oh, not bad. So, Eric, I wanted to get you on today and talk a little bit about yourself. You know, like your background, where you came from, and what you're doing nowadays.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me here. I'm honored to be on the show. I'm Eric Mitchell, and I run LifeLit Media. So I'm a publicist or a PR guy or whatever you want to call me. And I served in the Marine Corps. I went into the boot camp in 1994. I did my wonderful 4 years in the United States Marine Corps and then did some reserve time. Got out of doing that right after September 11th. Perfect timing. You go in early and you don't catch any of the bad stuff. I went to go work in the tech industry, where I spent several years with WebEx, which then became Cisco. Then had my own startup. We got acquired. And then I went to my final startup, which was a company called EchoSign, electronic signatures. But the whole time I was doing public relations and learning how to build relationships. When I got done with that, I really wanted to get to the mission, because something I noticed living in the Silicon Valley was the fact that as a vet, as a United States Marine, I felt like I was alone on an island. Like, nobody was around. Who was I supposed to talk to? If I wanted to have the camaraderie, I didn't have it with a Stanford grad. There's no knocking a college kid, but I didn't have that camaraderie. I didn't have somebody that understood when I was having a bad day. You know, the way we handle, especially Marines, how we handle our anger is a little bit different than everybody else. And I'm not going to say I don't have a hot head. And I wanted this mission so I could really help other companies that were veteran-owned really go out and do the same thing that these, hoodie-wearing kids are doing. So I decided to become a consultant and do independent PR. So what I did is I went out and targeted the biggest veteran-owned brands out there and pitched them, told them this is what I can do. So since then, that was a couple years ago, now we do it full-time. I have a stable of writers, my good right-hand man, Matt Hannaford, who's been with me from the start, because the whole thing I did when I first started, as I got into social media, I thought that was the key.
Right. And
I started a podcast called Social Hangout. It was a live thingy-dingy, and we had a Twitter chat. We did all of that fun stuff. And no, the social media world's awful. It's just not fun for me. It's like they all steal each other's ideas. It's really weird. But then I just kind of converted it over. So here we are today, and now we work with brands like Dan Lyric from Grunt Style, so I work pretty much with Dan. Bunker Labs, Combat Flip Flops is folks that we're working with. Doc Spartan, a lot of folks who've been on Shark Tank, and Andy Williams and his wife Ashley Williams, who are going to be later on in the fall on HGTV as a veteran couple who do Flip or Flop. Those wonderful, cool housing shows out in Texas. So that'll be on, and they're vets. So it's cool to see our community really making changes and working with folks that way. So that's been my initiative since I came out, is to kind of change the narrative from every veteran is some disgruntled, pissed off pervert. Okay, we're almost all perverts, but we don't publicly go around telling people that. But right. that whole narrative that we're all like 2 seconds away from being crazy, because we have some great brands that are out there that people aren't paying attention to. That my job is to put them into mainstream media and change that narrative from, oh God, they're all the same way, to, oh wow, they're crushing it. So that's me.
Awesome. So you're CEO right now, LifeLit Media. So for people that don't know about marketing, public relations, what exactly do you do? What does LifeLit do?
I sit around like this a lot. No, that's what I do. I say, hey, do this. No, public relations, marketing and public relations, they're similar, but not. For the public relations side, I would say I spend a lot of time on the phone pitching different clients to the media for different angles. So CBS is an excellent radio show that they've started doing. They launched it 2 weeks ago now. It's called ConnectingVets.com. It's great. It's a morning drive time show. Eric Deems is running it, Navy vet, and it's great. It's got some veteran leaders on it. So I spend a lot of time pitching, getting veterans on there, and then talking to the media. I do a lot of work with AmericanGrit.com. No, not John Cena. American Grit. It's a publication. It's a veteran-owned publication. So a lot of veterans are writing. So I spend a lot of time with writers, pitching different stories and getting brands out there, because the best way to get a brand noticed is truly to be out and have the media talk about you. Like Counter-Strike Coffee, we once got Doc Buttery on when Tommy Loren had her own show. We had him on there, and he sold out like crazy with his coffee. I mean, it's the same thing. You think public relations, probably a lot of vets are listening. The one that I could probably tell you that you relate to best is not Counter-Strike, but Black Rifle Coffee.
Right.
Remember, they put out that, we're going to hire 10,000 vets. And every vet was like, but you have like 40 employees. Good job. I mean, it was great PR. I mean, for me, it was like, boom, you went after Starbucks. Okay, interesting. But it got them mad press, and they sold a lot of product. Good for them. I mean, in the Silicon Valley brain, that was great. So, I mean, that's kind of what PR is. You got to put a spin on it and put a lot of stuff out there. I'm blessed because I work for brands like Grunt Style that are really leading the industry and, have great leaders. It's not just one person. They don't really have a face, which I love about veteran brands, is there isn't a face of a brand. If you think about it, Grunt Style, a lot of people think First Sergeant Tim Jensen, who's really the COO of the company, or you think Adam Calhoun, who's just, epic on Snapchat and a great guy, but he's not even a vet. So it's kind of cool to, tell people when they're like, who's Dan? I'm like, well, he's the CEO. He built this for $2,200 in his car. So I tell it's storytelling. Basically, I do it's storytelling. That's what it is.
Absolutely. I actually saw those guys on a TV show not too long ago promoting their product. And it's amazing. You talk about Shark Tank, the guys that are going on there, the publicity they get just from being on that one show in 2 minutes is insane. The Black Rifle Coffee, that one ad that they put out saying they're going to hire 10,000 veterans, when Starbucks said they were going to hire 10,000 refugees. It went nuts. It blew up.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that works.
I think they had when I remember right when it happened, their website said they had 2 to 4 weeks waiting to get the product. That's outstanding. I mean, that's the same way when I went and spoke with, I live in the Pacific Northwest. So I went up and drove an hour from my house to Combat Flip Flops World Headquarters. Right. And met with Matt Griffin, but he goes by Griff. And they were on Shark Tank, right? And he's the one that when Mr. Wonderful said, we're going to pass on you, him and his partner went to their pocket, grabbed a Kim Light, cracked it, threw it in his lap, and he says, what's this? And they're like, that's how we mark our dead. I mean, when they did that, that changed the whole plane. I mean, all those companies, if you're sitting around and you're like, oh, that's what they do, there's so much planning that goes into that it's amazing from a PR perspective. Them going on, they just had a rerun, I think, last week. And they had to prep for sales. Just like, say, Doc Spartan, theirs is later in June when they were on. And same thing, they have to start prepping for product because people go buy it again. It's a whole new set of eyes. They're like, oh, I want to go try it, because you got to think about syndication. So it's amazing to watch that these are vets doing this. It's not like just some average Joe company. It's like our brothers and sisters who, stood in the same line. And, a lot of these guys are docs the amazing point is a lot of them are West Pointers. So, and they're all in the Army. It's something about a clothing line and being in the Army. I don't know. They all do it. Yeah. Coffee. We're good with coffee and shirts. We will never run out of those two things.
Absolutely. And it's amazing when people start doing something, they start blowing up, how many people jump on board as well. How many people are selling coffee now?
It's true. Look at it.
Black Rifle really set a high bar.
They did. Really Evan came out and, he did that great partnership. He's got, Matt Best is, he's a beautiful man. And, it's amazing to see, them do their thing. You see Grunt Style doing those things, the boys over at Range 15. And just look at movies. Range 15 is, we all supported that. Everybody was behind that. So it's exciting. Range 15, it wasn't the greatest movie on earth, but I bought that thing the day it came out on my Apple TV. It still sits on there, and I still laugh because I'm like, I don't care. It was supporting them. And that's, I just noticed somebody wrote the best thing about the veteran community and veteran businesses, we all support each other. I totally 100% agree with that. That's the difference between coming from, say, the Silicon Valley to the veteran community. We all want to lift each other up and help each other. We don't look at each other as competitors. And Silicon Valley's like, how can I stab you in the back and take everything that you're worth and not help raise you up? So there's a big difference there.
Yeah, it's actually, to add on to your point, I was actually worried about getting guests on my podcast. So I'm like, I'm going to send out 70 emails, all like veteran-owned companies, stuff like that. I've had an overwhelming response. A lot of those names that you named on this show are going to be guests here in the next month. So it's
crap. I'm flattered. If I got on before them, I'm flattered. They're better than
one, episode 1 right here.
Woohoo! Number 1. It's the first time I took your virginity. I've never said that a lot.
So what should we expect out of you in the future? You got any big plans coming up?
We're just going to keep growing. My mission is to try to help as many veteran business owners as I can. I'm on an individual mission to really, I'm working with individuals to help build their brands and get them out there. I like working with CEOs and get them public speakers. We have, this epidemic of speakers that don't really talk about veterans. I reach out to brands all the time and I'm like, how come you don't have any veteran leaders up there? How come there's zero diversity? And that's something I'm working on at conferences, is to bring in diversity. We have some great, it sounds weird to say veterans and then have to say women veterans because they're just veterans like you and I, but to break it down for civilian folks, they need to know that. If you look at some of these great women veterans we have out there, they're just doing amazing things. Major Jas Booth, who runs Final Salute Inc. You've got Justine Ivers, who's running Bunker Labs Silicon Valley, which is huge, the Bunker Labs in the Bay Area. Linda Davey, she's a writer and works at Apple. I mean, there's some amazing. Marjorie Eastman, she's a Bronze Star.
Right.
I mean, and even Griff at Combat Flip Flops, his wife was Army intelligence. I mean, there's so many amazing women out there doing amazing things. So that's my mission, is to really open up the eyes over the next several years and build these brands to actually hope one day a couple of these brands become household names, not just in our little world, but I'd love for one day brand X to be the next competitor to, hey, I'd love to see Grunt Style be the second thing that you say about Under Armour. Like, oh crap, they're taking their lunch, because that would make me feel that I love that team. So, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, it all takes of us building each other up and working together to say that we're all here to help each other. So that's where I think I'm going to take it and keep helping people. I want to mentor more, I think, on a personal note. But, I have children, and I have an almost 13-year-old, so gray hair will cause most of the stress.
No, we definitely need more people like you to help other people out. Starting a business is not an easy thing. The PR of it, the social media part of it, all the marketing aspect of it, it's not easy. It takes a little bit of skill. A lot of people think they can just go hop on, Facebook and Instagram and boom, they'll be millionaires overnight. It's not the case.
That's not how that happens.
Not at all.
No, I mean, it's true. I mean, Twitter's hard. I tell people that all the time. And they're like, wait, you have it easy. You have almost 50,000 followers. And I'm like, and I remember when I had 250. And it's humbling to remember. I mean, I was just on the phone with a friend of mine who he's a Canadian. So he's one of my international friends. And we were chatting, and he remembers a couple of years ago when I was just starting and really kind of building my own business. And I was sitting in San Francisco charging a phone, and we were at some conference, and I was talking about, this is what I want to do. And he was like, well, you just got to go do it. And I'm like, okay, easier said than done. But we were talking about Twitter, and I had like 250 followers. This was like 2014. And now I see where Instagram is now. What I built Instagram, what I built Twitter, and now I'm building those for folks. And it's interesting. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think that's the hardest thing for anybody, not just in the veteran community, but building your own business and being an entrepreneur, is understanding that it's going to take time, and it's not going to happen overnight, because we've all heard the adage, if it's too good to be true, or if somebody tells you can get rich overnight, that's not even true, because it's not going to happen. You're going to have to grind and do all the hustling things that you hear people talk about, and give up on weekends, and sometimes your family's going to hate your guts because you're not going to be doing it, but it's going to be worth it at the end if you're successful. And then also being able to accept failure, right? Everyone's like, oh, no one failed. Sometimes you have to fail, because it's the only way you teach yourself something. I mean, if you don't have a nervous stomach when you first jump into this, I mean, crap, I still have a nervous stomach. And, I get a nervous stomach when I talk to my clients still. I'm like, "Oh, you're not going to fire me, even though I've done nothing wrong." You're still like, you don't want it to end. So I think your goal is to build those relationships at all times.
Oh yeah, I mean, even not necessarily the whole business failing, but just bits and pieces of it hitting, road bumps as you go. You should expect it starting a business.
Well, you have to. I mean, I think adapt and overcome is something that a lot of people,
absolutely,
they've heard us say it. It's something that you hear Marines say, you hear our soldier friends talk about it. But I definitely think it's something that people need to be aware of and understand that, like you said, certain things will be perfect, but other things will fail. It's like building up a customer base, right? It's like you can have one customer pay you a whole lot or a whole bunch of customers paying you a steady amount of money. Which one would you rather have? And when we first started, we had one customer pay us a whole lot of money. We were like, yay! And we didn't go out and try to get people. And they turned out not to be the customer that we wanted. They were like a nightmare.
Right.
And you weren't prepared for that because you thought, ooh, I see money, ching, 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 ching. And you have to constantly rebuild your business. So I really think people just need to know that always continue going and always try to continue building your business. And every time you have an obstacle, climb over it or go through it and ask for help. It's amazing. Our network, we're blessed as vets. You go onto Facebook and you say, hey, I need help. There's a lot of paws that'll go in the air to help you. So I think that's one thing that helped my business, asking friends.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
We're going to have some guests on here that have businesses that are nonprofits that help veterans as well.
Nice.
A lot of help out there from the veteran community. Just gotta look for it. Gotta find it.
That's what I tell people every day. I mean, I'm lucky. I know a couple non-profs besides Bunker. Live for the 22, which is a national gym. They give gym memberships to veterans. So they go to the big gyms and say, hey, will you give us 22 gym memberships? And it's pretty cool because they're not just using the number 22. They understand PTSD. The founder of the company, Carter Davis, he went through an episode where he almost ended his life. So he understands how important fitness is to him. So, I mean, those kind of nonprofits that are out there, but I see the frustration he goes to. I mean, It's not easy. His entire team struggles with, what the hell are we doing? It's a nonprofit. We can't make money. We can't pay ourselves to do this. So it's interesting.
Yeah. I think that's a big misconception about nonprofits, but that's a whole different subject.
Yeah.
About people getting paid.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
A whole different topic. Skip that for today.
Yeah. Let's not go there today. We don't need to. All the nonprofit people are like, shut up. Go on. Talk about it. We want to hear more.
Talk about nonprofit people on here. What they have to say about it.
Yeah. I'm not nonprofit. I'll tell you that.
So awesome. So, any advice for maybe veterans that have already started up or are thinking about starting up?
Ooh, I like that question. My advice is find a mentor. Even if you're just starting or thinking about starting, get a mentor. I think mentorship is something that, yes, everyone should use, but I think veterans should be seeking out to do it. We're lucky, and here's why. If you can get through to him, and he's not that difficult to get a hold of because he does have a Twitter, you can get mentored by guys like Dan Lyric, the CEO of Grunt Stuff. If you're lucky enough and you can get a hold of Evan from Black Rifle Coffee, he will give advice. A lot of these guys that are big CEOs, if you can get a hold of them, they will give you the time to do it. Or you can go to, there's a product called Veterati, great platform called Veterati. Marine built it with his wife, and it's a mentor-mentee platform. It's free. You go on, get a mentor, and I think that's the first advice is mentors. Second, just be ready to go at all time. You're never done working. Just accept you're never going to be done. You're never going to be satisfied. Our downfall from being military members is that we have our level that is different than everybody else's, right? Like I always tell people, it's cute. Gary Vee talks about his hustle. I'll put a vet against Gary Vee any day of the week, and none of us get handed $8 million to start our business. Gary can be great and all that, but Gary got handed $8 million and talked about hustle. Gary Vee's never trumped in the mud. Gary Vee's never been shot at. And I'm not claiming to be any of those things either, but I've gone through my fair share of training. I've been screamed at. I was a grunt. I get it. I've done the humps that suck with gear that sucks. And I'll take any of those guys' hustle over a Gary Vee. And that's just something an entrepreneur needs to do. You may look at those guys and be like, the Gary Vees and the Grant Cardones are the men, but to really do it, you just have to be like, okay, I'm in here for the long haul, and you need to look at, I mean, you're a vet. Go look at your veteran mentors that are out there. There's some big ones out there. Look at what people have done, and you can see it there. And go to the right places. If you're looking for a small business loan, you probably don't want to go to traditional banks. Look for veteran-owned companies that do it, and there's plenty of them out there that want to help you. I always tell people, point them towards street shares. Mark Rockefeller is an Air Force pilot, runs this great company. His team is mostly military. That's where I tell, if you're building a business, go there, because those guys get it. They're going to help you. We help our own, which is something that is constantly a theme here, that when you ever ask me that question, I'll be like, number one, find a veteran. We will always take care of each other. That's just in our mentality, is like, I got your six, right? Everybody says Iggy six. So I genuinely believe that. Let me see. Do I have a third piece of advice? No, because number two follows into everything. Just run hard.
Some good advice right there.
Oh.
Very good advice. So if people want to look you up more, where can they find you at?
Ooh, if you want to look me up more, if you want to, number one, I can speak English today, even though it's Friday. If you want to look me up more, yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Eric L. Mitchell. That's EricLMitchell. On Twitter, that's the same thing on Instagram, on LinkedIn. I'm Eric Mitchell, and I'm on there. And on Facebook, I have a Facebook page, and you can follow me there. And you can email me, eric@lifeletmedia.com, if you have any questions. I love to answer questions and point people in the right direction. I love giving out, I do schedule some time every week to talk to folks about PR. If they have questions, obviously, you know, if you're new and growing, I like to point people in the right direction, how to do it themselves, because we can really help each other out if we're doing that. I wish somebody would have done that for me when I was growing the business, so now I try to give that back now. So that's how you get a hold of me. Or you go to lifeflipmedia.com, find my entire team, see when the last time we updated our news feed, which I don't want to brag, but it hasn't been recently. But you can go there, or and always head over to Like American Great. It's a good publication. Support those. I always tell people that's how you can get a hold of me. I'm everywhere. So
Awesome.
That's how you get a hold of me.
Very knowledgeable individual. I hope people will reach out to you. And I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. First episode, big step. You know, I'm glad you were man enough to step up to the plate for me, help me out.
Honored. Any day, man. You know how it is. You reached out and I said yes right away. I was like, this is awesome. And to find out it's your first one, I'm flattered.
Yeah.
You could get all these other guys. I mean, I'm going to see who your other guests are. I'm going to be like, what, me first? What?
No, it's been an
Embarrassed.
absolute pleasure. Very knowledgeable person. I definitely love how you broke it down for people. You know,
Thank you.
coming in, it's a big step to start your own business, and I mean, you're out there killing it. So good for you.
Thank you.
And you know, you ever need anything, you ever want to come back on, anything going on, you're always welcome here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you. And for everybody joining us today, appreciate you coming on, watching us. Make sure you share. Go check out Eric, see what he's got going on. Make sure you check out Frag Out Clothing Company as well. Thank you all for joining us.